So this is probably the best opportunity for them to get some real education from real tangible results from someone rather than sitting on their asses on the couch for the next 5, 6 months expecting like,
Totally.
give them some handouts. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's ever been a better time to, I mean, it's always the best time to get in shape, but now specifically because first, people have more time. Number one. Number two, the strength of your immune system actually matters a lot because whether we all get the virus or not, even if we all do, the stronger your immune system is and the healthier you are, the better able you'll be to go through that. So, it's a very direct correlation. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, definitely. And it's crazy because I'm a competitive breakdancer myself. So I have a concrete schedule where I need to make sure that I have my routine set, and I would go to dance practice in studios. Obviously, it's closed now, even the gyms. So
Yeah.
I would move my barber set to the side so I can have some room and do personal practice and training. But the problem is that it does take a while for a habit to form. But as soon as like certain convenience points are removed and are taken off, it's harder to create a new routine. So if I were to do my practices and my own home workouts, and of course, like I don't touch machines, I seldom like touch free weights, but a lot of my workouts and exercises, it's purely body weight calisthenics.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah. So that's
yeah.
perfect. Now, very little, if anything, needs to change because, like you can just keep doing that without any equipment. And by the way, if done properly, that can be more than effective enough to, not just to maintain, but also to get in better shape and, improve and actually build some lean muscle, which, I'd be happy to talk about ways of doing that as well.
And it's crazy because I guess I could be that perfect example of that person who's heard of a lot of myths, who's heard of a lot of misconceptions. So the issue is that I'm hearing 20 things in this ear and 30 things that ear, and it's guiding my direction as an entrepreneur that also has a lot of like physical activities. And it's crazy because so I'll be open with you. I have this bad habit of overeating. I don't know what it is. It's just I'm a fucking pig, right? So I don't know if it may be my age because I just turned 25, my metabolism slows down, or possibly a mixture of lessening my cardio days. So like the days where I would like practice for 2-3 hours a day, and keep in mind it's high intensity with breaking. So it's significantly dropped. So now I'm starting to get some body fat on my belly. I'm just not as strong as I was before. So possibly my routine has changed significantly and my eating habits. So.
Yeah, so we can definitely talk about that more in detail. It's number one, it's definitely not your age. I guarantee you that. Oh. It is, you are way too young to have any of the, side effects from aging. Definitely not. It's maybe 10 years from now you can start to think about it, but definitely not yet. So FYI, 32 to 37, something like that, is the highest physical abilities of your life. Between like, let's say 33 to 35, 6, that's when the, human, like the body is by far the most capable physically. And, you're not even, so, after that, like let's say 37, 38, you still feel great. You can, everything is awesome. After 40, we have this natural normal decline that, by the way, we can also chat about more in detail, but it is definitely a preventable thing. Right? So we don't have to say, okay, I'm 45. Well, now everything is over. Let me just get fat. And no, absolutely not. You have people who are in phenomenal shape at 60 years old who are in better shape than someone who's in 25. Why? Because they're doing a different thing, right? So they're eating properly, exercising, being active at 60 versus someone who's, let's say, 20 years old, who's just sitting around doing nothing and eating, chips all day. They can be in a worse shape than someone who's in 60, most certainly, right? So even though it does get harder over time, every decade, that, so what you can do now, it's much easier to get in shape and stay in shape at 25 than it is at 35, much easier than it is at 45, easier than at 55, etc. But there's the fundamentals never change. Calories are king for weight management. So if you are at calorie maintenance, you're going to maintain the weight. If you are eating over your maintenance, meaning you're in a surplus of calories, you're going to be gaining weight. If you are in a calorie deficit, you will be losing weight. So those are the fundamentals that never change. So unfortunately, that is very simple to say, but in practice, it's much more complicated because there are several moving parts in this calories out part of the equation. And it can get somewhat complicated, and people don't understand that the influx or intake of calories affects the output of calories. So for example, let's say you're eating 2,000 calories. So you eat or consume 2,000 calories and you burn 2,000, right? Okay. And you maintain your weight. Okay. Now, if you start eating 1,500, you can't assume that the output is just going to maintain at 2,000. It doesn't. It decreases to match that, right? Because humans are long-lived. We have, survived millions of years of all kinds of challenges, all kinds of periods of famine when there's no food. So if we were that rigid, as in, no, my calorie output is going to be 2,000 no matter what, the first time there was famine, humans would be extinct. We would die, right? We wouldn't be around anymore. Yet we still are. So we have millions and millions of years of evolution that evolved our bodies into being able to not only fight off, but very effectively survive all kinds of shortage of foods, which if you think about what a weight loss diet is, so someone eats in a way that has a goal of reducing body fat, right? They're actually trying to lose body fat and get leaner. Our bodies have very, very effective and I would say quite insidious ways of actually fighting that off. They're trying to prevent fat loss. And this is why it's so hard to lose weight. Every time I say lose weight, I say lose body fat, because scale weight can be lost from several sources: water, muscle, glycogen in the muscle, and intestinal matter. So all of these things really don't matter. The only thing that does matter is losing body fat. That's what we all want. So we don't want to necessarily lose weight. We want to, because like I could say, okay, Kim, how much do you weigh right now?
Oh man, it's been a minute. I'd say roughly 174, 175.
Okay, so I could give you a dehydrating protocol and or laxative protocol. So you can be 155 48 hours from now. Right? You can weigh 20 pounds less. Easily, very easily done. You just dehydrate the hell out of you and there you go. Right? So you step on a scale, 20 pounds less. That's weight loss. Obviously, that's not what anyone with a brain cell wants, right? Because what's the point of just dehydrating yourself to rehydrate a few days later? Yeah. Yet, this is exactly what most diets do, and especially 100% of the cleanses do. You probably heard, 3-4 day cleanse. It's basically a laxative protocol, right? They just don't eat anything, drink water, have some kind of, weird shake or whatever, which is just usually a laxative, and you just poop it all out, and you're 10 pounds lighter, and you're like, yeah, because you dehydrated, probably
it
9
worked.
It worked. I lost 10 pounds. Sure you did, but it's just water. So you go back to your normal, whatever normal is, and you get 10 pounds back in the next 2 days, right? This is basically what the cleanses are. It's just a complete waste of time and energy. It's just like there's nothing to come out of it. But very similar thing is with diets. When, for example, 1 gram of carb ties 3 to 4 grams of water to itself. So if you reduce your carb intake, such as any low-carb diets like keto or South Beach or any other diet out there, or the newest extreme version is called carnivore diet, which basically have 0 carbs. You just eat meat all day. You just flush out so much water that people lose 10 pounds in a week, and they're like, man, I lost 10 pounds. It's freaking great. I'm like, yeah, just, give it a few more days. You're going to rehydrate and they gain it all back. So every time you hear someone say, I lost 14 pounds in the first 10 days on keto, you're like, 14 pounds? Yeah, probably 13 and a half of that are water. You may have lost half a pound of fat, maybe have not lost any. It's just water, all of it, right? So this is one of the things that I always suggest to keep in mind, that water fluctuations go up and down, up or down, few pounds every single day. Normally, completely naturally. It depends on what you ate the day before, how much you slept, if you're stressed out, If you're stressed out, you're going to retain more water. So, and opposite, if you relax more, you kind of flush out the water. And all of this affects your water weight a lot. Like we're talking, several pounds per day. So, when it comes to actual real results in fat loss, you can lose 1 to 2 pounds of actual fat per week.
Per week, okay.
Per week. This is what an average man that's around 20% or more body fat can lose. So the leaner you are, you can lose, less than that, or rather toward the lower end of the range. And if someone is more overweight, they can lose more, right? Let's say 2 pounds, right? So for example, for you currently, you can probably lose 1 pound, not more, because any more than that, you're probably just going to be either losing water or muscle. It's not going to be fat. So so what does that mean? That you can lose like 4 to 6 pounds of fat per month? Yes, that's exactly what it means. So anyone who tells you that they lost more is just not losing body fat. They're losing water or muscle probably, or just miscalculating all over, but that's pretty much the reality, right? So over here in my world, so I've been a coach for 12 years, had 750 individual clients so far. And this is for men, by the way. Women, due to sheer fact that they are physically smaller than men and have naturally higher percentage of fat and lower percentage of muscle, they can lose body fat even slower, meaning it takes them longer to do that. So an average woman can lose about 1/2 pound to 1 pound of fat per week. Most women would probably be on the lower end of that. So, for a woman to lose like 2 to 4 pounds of fat per month is exceptional. If the woman is actually tracking and losing body fat, not all these other things, right? So, that's just the reality. That's how it works. So anybody who says, oh, that sucks, man, I want it faster. I mean, sorry, it doesn't work faster, right? You can, but if you even lose body fat faster, because theoretically you can, right? Theoretically, you can just stop eating for a month and don't eat any food. Yeah, if you do that, you'll certainly lose more weight than what I said in the numbers, but majority of that weight loss is going to come from muscle loss, right? And then what did you do? If you lose muscle, your metabolic rate went down, and later on, you're burning fewer calories constantly, and it's going to be harder to, keep the weight off, and almost impossible to keep the weight off in that scenario, right? So the game plan should be keep the muscle that you have and lose body fat only, right? And when you do that correctly, and by the way, how do you do that? Through creating a calorie deficit, right? And you can do this almost entirely through food. So that's one of the things that, like the number one myth. What is it? Well, number one myth is probably calories don't matter, right? They absolutely certainly do. They always do. So for example, if you think about how does an average diet work, right? So for example, if I said, okay, how does a keto diet work versus how does fasting work? How does veganism work, right? There's groups of zealots out there for every diet or every weight loss or lifestyle approach that's claimed and swear by that approach, right? So for example, if you look at the funniest thing is keto diet is a high-fat, low-carb diet, right? You have the opposite of that is veganism, right? Veganism, of course, vegan zealots are going to say, veganism is not a diet, it's a lifestyle, whatever. Most people do veganism because they're trying to lose weight, right? And again, yes, majority of them do that because they love animals, but that's another thing. Someone's moral, ethical, or political beliefs are absolutely not, my point of interest. I don't care why someone does something. I'm here to get people lose weight, get in shape, and get ripped. That's what I, care about. But if you look at, for example, those are the opposite things, right? Keto is high fat, low carb. Veganism is a very high carb, low fat, low protein diet. So they are completely opposite. They are the two opposite extremes, right? Yet you have people who are doing veganism. You have people who are doing keto. They both claim that, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. Keto is the greatest thing ever. Veganism is the greatest thing ever. Of course, you have the fasting zealots too, who say, yeah, man, if you just don't eat half the day, that's all that matters, right? Don't eat 16 hours, do eat 8. That's magical. It's going to lose weight magically, right? So all three zealot groups will claim that this is the greatest thing ever, right? Yet they are kind of opposing, right? Because fasting, like eat whatever you want as long as you eat within the smaller window, right? Keto says eat all the calories you want as long as they're not carbs. Veganism say eat all the calories you want as long as they're not fats. So it's kind of the opposite, yet they kind of all can work or not work. What's the common theme in between them?
So essentially, they all rely on one form of a mechanism or one form of gear, but relying on one gear, they're forgetting about all the other mechanics in play as well. So they assume that there would be results.
Correct. But what's the one thing that they all do if they do it? They control calories. That's all they do.
Yeah.
That is the common pattern between all the diets. And by the way, every fad diet out there tells you that calories don't matter while trying to trick you in some way to control and lower your calories. That's what they do. So for example, here's how veganism does it. Veganism controls your calories by forcing you, and this is, by the way, one of the best things about veganism, by forcing you to actually eat more foods that are very satiating, such as things that are high in fiber, beans, vegetables, fruit. This is excellent. This is really, really, this is probably the only positive of being a vegan. Like, you actually eat more of the healthy foods that are very satiating. And because they're so satiating, you eat less and you lower overall calories. That's why if anybody loses weight on veganism, this is why, because they lower their calories. On the other hand, if you look at the opposite and look at the keto diet, right, ketogenic diet simply means you eat protein and high fat, very low carb. They also, if someone loses weight on keto, which, by the way, majority of people do not lose weight on any diets, right? But that small percentage that does lose weight, how does someone lose weight on keto? Because a guy used to eat 3,000 calories, 2,000 of which came from carbs. Like, literally, some stats show 75% of an average American's food intake comes from carbs. 75%. Think about it. So let's say, a guy eats 4,000 calories, 3,000 of that is carbs. Now he goes on a keto diet that basically says almost zero carbs, like 50 carbs, 50 grams of carbs, which is 200 calories, so almost nothing. So he went from 3,000 calories of carbs to zero. Like, what's going to happen? Well, he just cut 75% of his food intake. Do you think his calories are going to be lower? Even if he adds a little fat, even if he adds a little protein? Absolutely. He's going to be overall eating way less than he used to. And because he's now in a calorie deficit, he's losing weight, right? And then the keto zealot comes and says, see, keto is magic. Calories totally don't matter. All you got to do is just cut your carbs, right? And by the way, subsequently, and not surprisingly, this is actually very expected, people who do best on keto, guess who they are? Very, very, very overweight people who used to drink 3 gallons of soda per day, basically had thousands and thousands of calories of processed, very easily digestible, easily overeaten carbs, right? That's the number one type of person who loses a lot of weight on keto, for whom keto actually works, right? It totally makes sense. If I used to drink, a gallon of Coke every day, and that's whatever, 3,000 calories, and now I cut that because keto doesn't allow it, I just cut 3,000 calories every day. Do you think I'm going to be losing weight? Freaking A. Yeah. Of course. And then the third thing, fasting, right? How does fasting help someone lose weight?
Just stop putting calories in.
I mean, you used to have, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now you cut breakfast and lunch, you just have dinner. Do you think you're going to eat less that way? Even if you, cram 2 meals into that small eating window, but again, I want everybody to know, most people do not lose weight on any of these diets. Most people do not. Most people who try fasting cannot stick to it and they don't lose weight. Most people who try keto find it extremely restrictive because it is, as such, it's very unsustainable and they just quit. So most people who try any of these, and veganism, I won't even comment, it's probably one of the worst things anyone can do for their health, short of being like morbidly obese or very overweight, which is in itself very, very inflammatory condition, as such, puts you at a higher risk of all the diseases, everything else. So it's very unhealthy to be overweight. That's the number one worst thing we can do. Of course, bearing some actual diseases that are not your choice. Like if someone gets a disease of something, okay, but we're talking about things that we can control, right? Which is what we eat, we certainly can control. So number one thing, worst thing is be overweight. So whatever diet makes you be overweight, don't do that. Do something else, right? Second worst thing is probably veganism. And the reason I say that is, a lot of people say I am all anti, hate vegan. First, I don't hate anybody, and I don't have anything against anybody doing whatever they want, right? Me as a coach, it's not my role to say, hey, Kim, what you're doing is wrong. Don't do that. No, or especially like, let's say you like animals so much that you don't want them killed or sacrificed or whatever, so you do veganism for that. Awesome, power to you. Like, I don't have anything against that. Great. Like, whatever you want to do, do it. I actually have not many, but a few vegan clients who come and say, Amir, I understand that this is a suboptimal diet, yet I love animals so much, and because of that, I don't eat meat or fish or their products or even eggs. Okay, cool. There's a way to make that, and then we still customize the diet and make it work, right? So it's at the end of the day, the king to all of this is number one, calories. So how many calories you're eating per day. That's number one. You have to be in an appropriate calorie deficit. So you determine whatever your maintenance calories are, usually 13 to 15 times your weight in pounds. That's your maintenance calories, somewhere there. But again, it can also be way lower if the person is inactive and very overweight. But, let's say we determine a certain number of calories. That's your maintenance. So if you eat that, you're going to maintain a current weight. So you have to be below that. So let's say we determine for you, for example, right, it's 3,000. Okay, so you can't be eating 3,000 if you want to lose weight. You have to be below that. And then we figure out what's the appropriate deficit, which, by the way, the customization of a diet is a very, the way I do it at least, is a very complex, deep project that it takes me about hour and a half to customize everything for one person. So, I can't say, hey, Kim, eat this many calories. Like, if it worked that way, then everybody would have a custom diet. We would all be ripped, which is not the case, right? It's much more than that. But let's say we determine a certain maintenance calories, and then we determine what percentage off of that we need to take off. So how much you need to be in a deficit. So once you have the calories, so let's say we determine for you, for example, let's say 2,000 calories you need to eat per day and that's your weight loss level, right? You're going to be losing weight at that level. For example, again, this is just imaginary number. I'm not saying that is the number, but let's say we calculate it and determine it's 2,000. Now, the second step is how to distribute these 2,000 calories over protein, fats, and carbs, right? So how much protein should you have? How much fats? How much carbs? And this is...
So if I were to, because I'm an athlete, I need power and strength. So I would need a lean athletic body. So that would be more so fat, proteins, and moderate carbs.
It depends. It's much more complicated than that. Okay. So let's simplify, right? So if you look at carbs, for example, carbs are just an energy source. They are completely non-essential for life. So if you and I or anybody else don't have a gram of carbs for the rest of your life, you will survive. You'll be just fine. Nothing wrong. The only thing you won't be able to do is look at carbs as literally like fuel for the engine. Right. So if you have a car that works great, but it doesn't. So let's say if you look at carbs as the what's it called? Premium gas, right? So premium gas gives a high performance engine the best performance, right? It can go really like great, all this. So if you look at the body, if you don't have any carbs, you won't be able to do all out sprints. You won't be able to do any high intensity activity. So for example, for what you do, breakdancing, without carbs, it would be very, very, very suboptimal. Like you would not be able to do that well because you would do that for 5-10 minutes and you'd be like, okay, no energy, I'm dead.
I felt that.
Right? Definitely. So, The same is true for any high intensity activity, whether it be endurance, whether it be, like for example, CrossFit stuff where people like to do all kinds of, burpees and anything like that, or someone whose job is, let's say, physical labor and they do a lot of, like construction and stuff. Without carbs, they'll be dead. Right, like they wouldn't be able to do that. So unlike carbs, both protein and fats are essential for life. Like you have to have them. And this is especially true for protein because protein does not have a storage in the body. So if you don't have enough protein, your body literally has to break down your muscle through a process called gluconeogenesis, which is breaking down the protein to get the amino acids from it. And this is the worst case scenario. We obviously don't want that. So because of that, having higher protein is the number one thing. Number one action step that I would suggest everybody watching this, the number one thing you can do is have, let's say, 20 to 40 grams of protein per meal, at least 3 meals a day. That would be the number one, most actionable, most useful, valuable tip that I can give you right now. Have more protein. That's pretty much it. Yeah. And by the way, what does that mean? Like how much more? It depends on where someone is already. So 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's how much you should have. So if you weigh, let's say 175, right? You should have from whatever 0.7 times that is, let's say 140, right? Maybe it's probably, let's say 130. Yeah. So you should have from 130 to 175 grams of protein every single day. That's it. And then the leaner you get, the closer to the higher range of that you should have, because the leaner you get, the more chances you have of losing muscle. So more protein you need, and vice versa. Let's say someone who's very overweight, they don't need that much. They're probably, let's say if we have a guy who's 250 pounds and very overweight, he might need, like 0.5 grams of protein times the body. So for him, he might need 125 grams to be just fine, right? So, going over 1 gram of protein per pound is completely unnecessary, doesn't have any benefits, and pretty much nobody should, very, very few people ever get to the point where they need more, right? So if you get extremely lean at like single-digit body fat percentage, you have an 8-pack, you're ripped everywhere, and you're working out a lot, then you may actually need more than 1 gram per pound of body weight, but very, very unlikely that, majority of people will ever get there. So, you don't really need that. So for most people watching this or listening to this, just go whatever your body weight in pounds is times 0.8. That's how many grams of protein you should have. That's probably for most people, like an average, this would be a really, really, really great protein goal to hit for every day.
Okay. So I've used a calculator online called TDE calculator, and it gives a rough estimate of what you want. So for example, for me, I put in my 175, I guess moderate exercise, so 2 to 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. And basically it would give me a calculation where it's like, okay, well, maybe my calorie intake is 2,700. So now it would be, there's 3 segments. There's a cutting, there's a bulking, and then there's a moderate. So for an athlete such as myself, I would want to go in the maintenance, or would I want to go in the cutting, just because of, I guess I've got some body fat. I've been lazy. So if I wanted to get back into the training the training mode, would it be cutting or would it be maintenance?
Well, it depends on what your goal is. But so let's say if you want to lean out, you definitely have to be in the cutting phase, meaning you have to be in a deficit. However, currently, because of this very, never seen before situation, like we've never had world, at least not in our lifetimes, like half the world is on lockdown, quarantine, all this virus stuff. Because of this, there's one very important point to talk about and consider, which is what I've been doing in the last, 2-3 weeks with my private clients who are in my, either group coaching programs or working one-on-one. And that is, when you are in a calorie deficit, your immune system is compromised, meaning it is weakening your immune system. So you are much more prone to getting sick, much more prone to getting injured. Generally, all the processes that normally happen, they slow down. They don't happen as efficiently and or effectively as they normally do. So then the question becomes, which is, one of my clients had a really good question the other day, and that was, okay, so if we're trying to be as healthy as we can and build our immune system up as much as we can now, which we certainly should, because just look around, right? Maybe you and I, are going to, or all of us are going to get a virus at some point if you are compromised at that moment, which means your immune system is weakened, you're not sleeping well, you're very prone to, like, how's that going to affect you if you get the virus? It's not going to be good. On the other hand, if we make your immune system as strong as it possibly can be, you can get the virus and not even know, which is what, especially for younger people and people who are in shape, vast majority of people, we're just going to get the virus and won't even know. 2 weeks later, it's gone, nothing happened, you had no symptoms, no issues, nothing, right? So then the question is, does it make sense now to actually be in a deficit because it compromises our immune system, or should we just, stay at maintenance and keep what we have? So, and the answer is, as always, it depends. And it depends on one thing, and that is your body fat percentage and overall health. Let's put them in one. So for example, for someone like you are, I don't know, do you have an idea what your fat percentage is?
I would say lowest 15, maybe hitting 20, 21. That just a guess.
Gotcha. So let's say if it's between 15 and 20, for you, I would suggest being in a very, 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 very small and light, sensible deficit. But more so than let's hit the deficit, I would have you focus on lots of protein and lots of really, really good, healthy food choices, such as like a lot of vegetables, salads, fruit, like the healthiest you've ever eaten in your life. And
Okay.
just by doing that, you will like extremely high chances that you're going to be in a deficit just by doing that. But because you're getting so much good food and such a high volume of food, you would not even feel that you're in a deficit and probably wouldn't be big, and your immune system would get stronger, because there's the other side of that equation, which is,
Yeah. Yeah.
the other side is the around 12% body fat as a man, around 22% as a woman, because women generally have like plus 10. So let's say 12% body fat is overall considered to be the healthiest body fat percentage for a man, which means your testosterone, all other hormones are going to be perfect. You're going to be sleeping the best possible quality of sleeps you can get. You'll be the strongest, the feeling the best. It's just the best of all worlds, right? Is at 12%. Yeah. The more you go away from that in either direction, like if you get really lean, like at 8%, you get into single digits, that's aesthetically awesome. Like you feel great, you feel on top of the world, or at least people think you feel on top of the world. But in reality, you feel like absolute shit. Your testosterone is not existing. Like all the men's functions don't work. So people say, I need to, get my abs and get six packs so I can get laid. When you get a six pack, you can't even get laid because nothing works, right? Because
they can't even get up.
Literally, like it's the worst thing ever. Like you feel like shit. You can't sleep. You are irritable constantly, hungry, angry. It is horrible. So that's another reason why, like 99.99% of the influencers out there, fitness influencers on YouTube, Instagram, wherever, they're all on massive amounts of steroids. Why? Because, being in a 7 to 8% or lower body fat as a natural is a complete misery. I don't, like you would have to be probably 1 out of 7 billion people who can actually mentally sustain that. Like theoretically, you can, right? Theoretically, hey, just eat at that level, you'll be fine. In reality, living with low testosterone is absolutely horrible. I mean, people have it for whatever reason, right? So another thing is the more overweight a man gets, the lower his testosterone goes, right? So for example, a man at 25%, his testosterone is next to zero anyway, like nothing works, right? And then as you lose body fat and get closer to that 12%, your testosterone goes up, 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 right? So for example, for you, because you're not overweight, like you have a, whatever. So let's say, if you're now, let's assume that you're now at, for example, 17% body fat, right? Okay. And you want to get to 12. We need to lose 5%, right? Okay. And you weigh 175, which means we go 1.75 times 5. You need to lose, 9 pounds of fat. So knowing that you can lose 1 to 2 pounds of fat per week, that means it would take you, let's say 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 6 to 10 weeks, depending on how, committed you are on a custom-made plan, custom-made training program, right? It would take about, let's say 2 months-ish, right? So anywhere from maybe even 6 if you're really committed, all the way to 10. But let's say 2 months, like 8 weeks, very easily done. You would get to 12%. At 12%, you already have like the upper abs start to show. And depending on your genes and everything else, you might actually have a 4-pack at 12%. Who knows? Aesthetically, right? And obviously the rest of your body is also cut, lean, and looks good. Your testosterone is going to be higher than it is now, like way higher, which again affects everything. Higher testosterone means you build more muscle, you burn more fat easily, et cetera, right? So all the great things happen the closer you get to anything below 15% as a man. Okay. Right? So for example, in your case, I would say, let's not hit a heavy real deficit. Instead, I would put you on really, really good food choices and cut out junk food so that you feel so much better from having all these good foods, yet being in a very small deficit. So let's say for you, I would stretch it out to probably 8 to 10 weeks, which again, 2 months. Like, what is that? Boom, and 2 months are gone. It's not.
I have been switching to shit food, even regardless of before this pandemic. I was like switching into bad habits. Like I've always had bad eating habits, so it's. I feel like it's catching up. So definitely that was a big light bulb moment for me.
Certainly, and that's you're not alone there. Like there's millions of people who, whenever this is done, hopefully, I used to say up until a few days ago, I used to say, I was hoping it's going to be done by May 1st. Now chances are, I think almost zero that that's going to happen. Unfortunately, I think we'll see. So today of the day of this interview, it's now April 3rd. I think unfortunately a month from now, so let's say May 3rd, is going to spread more across the U.S. because the way we see the numbers, unfortunately, and by the way, I'm the last one to ever be pessimistic and the most optimistic person ever, but this is just reality. It's how we see things progressing realistically. I think it's going to be at least 2 months, unfortunately. And again, I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that it all ends tomorrow. And then, I look back and say, oh, that was so, pessimistic of me. I hope that's the case. I really hope that I'm wrong, that it gets done sooner, but I don't see this ending before like at least June, so we have 2 months. So millions of people in this country are going to be 2 months from today, probably 10 to 40 pounds heavier than they are now, right? And it's very easy to see why, because we're staying in the house. So movement, even the normal movement that people do is now decreased. So activity is lower. Gyms are closed, right? People who used to walk outside don't walk anymore. People who used to go to gym don't go to the gym anymore. So, and I've also noticed, I do this for a living, so I can't even imagine myself not working out. And last 2 days, be like, I got to go outside or in the house, do whatever. It's kind of like not nearly as fun as the gym. So, activity is down, which means our output of calories is lower. On the other hand, when you are kind of in that mindset of, I'm kind of lazy to work out, I'm watching movies all day or whatever, people are doing.
Comfort food.
It's so much easier to say, hey, but look at this pizza or a little ice cream or whatever. So, and it's just human nature. It's completely normal. This is not a judgment call against anybody. We all feel it. I feel it too. It's just, you have to put systems in place to overcome that brain wiring that says, okay, just sit around and eat whatever. It's all going to be fine, man. When we get out of this, then we're going to get on a diet. I would say you certainly can do that, but isn't it better to at least, so that's what I would say, in my Facebook group, we have like 560 something people and, we're constantly interacting. I go, post and do all kinds of coaching and stuff in the group. And I always say at least have a goal of maintaining the current weight by the time this is over, because as much as that seems like, is that really any type of ambitious goal? I would say it's a great goal if the alternative is, hey, come out 2 months from now 30 pounds heavier, right? In that case, maintaining would be an awesome goal, right? So on the other hand, I definitely believe that now is better time than ever to get in shape. Why? Because the healthier you are, the stronger your immune system is. The leaner you are, up to these levels of 12% body fat for men and 22% for women, which again, very, 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 very small percentage of men and women will ever get there, right? So because we don't have a really problem of people getting too lean. If you look around, you'll see that that's not the issue that we have, right? So, I truly believe now is the best time to get in shape, to put a couple of habits that you need in order to, once you lose weight, keep it off forever. Now is the time to do that. Like now is truly the way, because we have the time, you have more control over what you eat because we eat at home. Like most people have more home cooked meals now than they've maybe ever had. That's a great opportunity to eat healthier and by default be in a calorie deficit, which means losing body fat, yada, yada, yada. Right. So it's, that plus I've actually, by the end of this weekend, so 2 days from now, I will have a full Get Ripped at Home program that I'm going to announce probably Sunday or Monday next week. So 2 days from now, that's going to be full training program that you can do in the house or outside, whether you have minimal equipment or no equipment at all, that allows for progression, that allows for challenging your muscles and your body in a way that not only that you're not going to lose muscle, but you probably, at least that you can do is maintain. But people who actually do the program properly and I show exactly how to do that can actually build some lean muscle. So it can absolutely be done now. And I believe every challenge can be looked at as an opportunity. And this is truly an opportunity to get in great shape. It really is, because I believe it's easier now. At least food-wise, which is, and again, your diet is the majority of your results when it comes to losing weight. You can lose all the weight you want and get as lean as you want without any exercise. Like you never have to do a minute of exercise at all. Now, should you do it? Yes. But do you have to do it? No. That's how important your diet and food are. They are the most important parts. And that part, if anything, is easier now because you have full control of what you bring in a house. People go out way less. They don't, the problem is most people who say, hey, I eat outside or have dinner 5 times a week, most of those
That's
people
me.
are overweight. Yeah. Because it's so easy. The portion sizes are big enough that 5 of us can have one meal and be full. That's how it works. And what are the restaurants, if you look at it from the business standpoint, what are the restaurants making most money on? The cheap processed carbs.
Yes.
That's what they're going to load up on.
That's why it looks so big.
Of course, they're not going to give you extra meat because meat is very expensive. That's what you're going to get the least. Like if you look at, for example, one of my favorite places is Chipotle, right? If you go, I love it. But what are they going to give you there? Like this little, thing of chicken, like whatever, 10 grams of protein of chicken. But hey, rice. But man, if you want rice, we'll give you a bag of rice. It's okay because it's so cheap. And it's not like, Chipotle people sit and say, hey, let's make everybody fat. Not at all. They just want to make more profits, right? So if you want to add double chicken, it's going to be whatever, another $3 or I don't know what it is. But basically everywhere you go, they're going to try to save on the most expensive food item, which is always a protein source, right? So meat, fish, that's what's expensive. The rest, they don't have a problem giving you bread, giving you rice, giving you potato, giving you all this cheap stuff because, it fills you up. It looks like you got a big meal, yet there's just a ton of empty calories. That's basically it, right? So because people are eating at home way more, cooking way more, now is really the best time, and I truly believe the easiest time to get in shape.
I definitely agree with you with that, Amir, because at the end of the day, it's the systems, it's the process. Because when you're focused on the habits and the processes rather than I guess beating yourself up saying, oh, I have to lose weight, I have to do this, and people tend to lose their minds and go through a more aggressive approach for quicker results. They don't really understand that it's the habits and the systems that are the most important. And when this is the most biggest opportunity to take advantage of finally maintaining or fixing up your health or improving it, is definitely your diet starts in the kitchen. And when you cut off that source of habits of eating out and not being able to actually track your calories, but you're focused on, obviously you're saving money, but you're actually figuring out, okay, you're actually seeing what's coming in your body and out of your body. So this is the most important time to really think about it. And for you viewers out there that are currently listening to this, now is the best time, right? So if you're sitting on your couch and you've been kind of sitting on the fence about fixing your health, then Amir is the person that you need to talk to. So I'll have the link below if it's not already there, and you can click his Facebook group below and join right away. And then feel free to start a conversation and see how you can get started with all of that, because this is very, very valuable gold nuggets that's been dropped throughout the whole video. So
yeah, totally. And one thing that I would say is, first, if people want to join my group, it's a free Facebook group. You can go to alphafitgroup.com, alpha spelled ALPHA, so alphafitgroup.com. You can join the free group. But the other thing that you mentioned, which is really, really key, and that is the word system. So here's a simple test that I do with my private clients. So when someone comes into my world, whether it be one-on-one or group coaching or whatever capacity we decide to work together, I ask them this question: if I went into your house today, so I knocked on the door and walked in today, open your fridge, walked around the house, see what you have, what do you think? What would I conclude about your health, your body fat percentage, your weight? What would I see? Would I say this person has a system that by default is going to make him lean and healthy and ripped, or do they have a get fat system, right? And that's the number one thing, the kitchen makeover, right? Which is truly the easiest, most obvious things that we kind of neglect is, we disregard that. That's like, they can't be that simple. Here's the number one thing you can do right now to lose weight. Get rid of all the junk from the house. Or if there's people saying, well, maybe we won't have food, we shouldn't throw away food, whatever. Number one thing is don't bring junk food in the house. That's it. Now, of course, everyone's going to say, what kind of advice is that? That's so silly. We all know it. Sure, of course we all know it, but do that. Try it. See how it works. Like, don't bring junk in a house. It's just like in business, if someone says, hey, are you doing lead generation? No, I'm not. Okay, so you have no sales, really, and you're not doing lead generation. Got it. Okay, so start doing lead generation, right? Are you having, sales conversations? If not, go reach out to some people you know and ask them if you can help them somehow, right? So it's these most obvious things that most people are not doing. Or when you see someone who's like just starting a business and they spend 3 weeks thinking about the color of their logo, they spend another 2 weeks thinking about should my about page be called story page or about, like, these things that absolutely don't matter for anything, right? The same is with the diet, right? We are like, you see people obsessing about, hey, did my protein come from fish, or, did it come from like farm fish or organic fish? And I'm like, well, that's great, but let's first see if you're controlling your calories, number one. If your macros within those calories are distributed properly, are they? They're like, no, they're not, but let me focus on organic fish. It's like nothing wrong against organic, but the point is, by the way, side note, organic versus not organic food, absolutely identical weight loss results. It's not going to affect your weight loss in any way, better or worse. It's the same. And actually, most studies show that there's absolutely no different effects for health either. So most of the organic food is just throwing money away. But just a side note, right? But people are spending so much time and effort on things that really don't matter, on minutia and details that really will not move that needle at all, while they're at the same time not controlling their calories, not controlling how much protein they eat, etc. So the big things that make all the difference, they don't do that. Let me focus on things that matter at all, don't matter at all, that give no results. Let me focus all my energy there. Right. So the system is absolutely key. And I was silly enough to get a business degree too. So I did a case study on a couple of businesses. One of them Costco, the other Whole Foods, and the third one was Best Buy.
Right.
And after that time, I really fell in love with Costco. It's one of the best business models that exists.
Yeah.
Diversified. It's absolutely like a perfect dream business. Like, if anybody wants to study how it should be done, study Costco. And by the way, in 2008, when I was in business school, I emailed a CEO of Costco at the time. His name, I think, Jim Sinegal. So I emailed the guy and said, hey, I'm a student in business school. I'm doing a case study on Costco, blah, blah, blah. And this guy responded to me and said, like, he wrote the email, and again, who knows? Maybe somebody else wrote an email, in his name. I doubt it. I actually think he did. And this is a CEO of a 120 billion a year company, writing back to a student who, like, he got nothing out of that. Like, he wrote back and said, we're so happy to have people like you. If you ever, when you're done with school, because, I shared a couple of things with him, said that I love the business model. I showed how I broke down the business model, the lessons I learned. It was really cool. And he says, we're always looking for great managers, because I was studying business management. If you're, after school, if you ever want to consider it, reach out to me. We can talk about, working for Costco.
That's awesome.
So, but this is a $120 billion a year company, right? Because Costco
that was a cold email, right?
Cold email, completely. And
how'd you get his email?
His email is like jim@costco.com.
Oh,
something like that. It's literally, I Googled it, and and obviously nobody expects that you email this guy that's going to show up. But what I'm saying is, this is the type of company that he finds the time to do that. He doesn't think of that as a waste of time, even though money-wise it totally was, right? Because if it took him 5 minutes to write that email, he could have made a $5 million deal for Costco, whatever, right? But this is the type of business that's always going to succeed. I'm not worried about Costco. The number one company that I invested when I started investing was Costco. Like, I have a small stock, but I'll be buying Costco stock forever. They're phenomenal business, right? But finally, to my final point is systems. So since then, I've studied systems theory, and I suggest to anybody who is interested in systems to read W.J. Edwards. W. Edwards Deming. It's been a while. So he has really, really two cool books. One of them is The New Economy, and the other one, I forgot what his name is, but he basically is the father of systems theory. And he says in one of his books that 94% of results that you get in any group, team, organization, system comes from the system. 94%. Only 6% comes from individual efforts. So,
and I feel that 6% they have a system, but they just don't consciously know.
So probably, exactly. So if you look at, for example, dieting, right? If your environment, who you are surrounded with, what you're surrounded with, and your fridge is stacked with great food, if we call that your system, that's 94% of your battle won.
Wow.
Versus if you don't do that, you hang out with people who eat, all the horrible food, they're all overweight, nobody exercises, there's a ton of
Beer,
people.
alcohol, drugs.
Good luck. Like you're never gonna, it's not gonna work. So I always say, I do this for a living. I teach people around the world how to do it. If someone brought me, pizza and ice cream at 9 p.m. every day when your willpower is gone, like I'd be obese in 6 months, right? If I had that in my house, that's how it works, because you will never ever defeat human nature. Like it's always going to win, right? So the system, the part of that system, one of the biggest drivers of behavior is environment. So make sure to set up your environment, which is the easiest first thing you can do. But again, often neglected because it can't be that simple. That's not it. Well, another great book when it comes to weight loss psychology is by that professor. The book is called Slim by Design. And he has another book. I forgot the author's name, but he's a very famous professor that teaches psychology specifically on weight loss. And he basically, does these weird tests that are phenomenal. For example, think of this. Here's one that I remember. So families that have a bowl of fruit on the counter in their kitchen, on average, weigh 10 pounds less each person in the family than those who don't.
Interesting.
So, okay, the easiest thing you can do, put the bowl of fruit there. The opposite example, people or households that have a cereal box on the counter, visible, tend to weigh more, 10 pounds more than families who don't, right? Because when, how do they say, out of sight, out of mind, right? So for example, if I had an apple right now here while I'm working on my standing desk, if I wasn't talking to you, I'll probably be eating an apple. If I don't have it, I won't have it, right? If I don't have an apple there, it's not going to happen. If I had for example, some kind of cereal to chew on or some processed crap, I'd be like, while I'm doing something, munch on it without even realizing you can have 1,000 calories like that without even your brain registering that you ate anything, right? So it's very, very, simplistic in a way that the brain processes information. So your brain always says, if I can accomplish X goal by doing 2 steps or 4 steps, I'm always going to choose 2. So whatever is the easiest thing. So also this, when you open your fridge, the first thing that you see that is the closest and easiest for you to grab, you are 6 times more likely to have that than anything else in your fridge. So what can you do? Make sure that protein is the number one thing you can grab.
Okay.
Because the protein is the most important one, right? So whether it be chicken or some kind of meat or fish that you prepared earlier that's ready to eat if you just, warm it up, or maybe a can of sardines or boiled eggs, whatever it is, but make sure that the first thing you see, and also just think about it, how many times have you bought, and everybody else, a piece of fruit or vegetable, put it behind the fridge, and then a month later you see something stinks, it's like, okay, it got rotten and it went bad, because you don't see it, because it's behind, right? On the other hand, we eat the first thing we see. So it truly is the simplicity is the ultimate answer. I think Einstein said simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It truly is. The simpler you can make it for yourself to do the right thing, eat the right food, you will lose weight, and vice versa, right? The harder you make it for yourself to do the wrong thing, right? So, for example, I don't have any junk in a house. If I feel like having ice cream, you totally can occasionally, no problem with that at all. You can have any type of food you want. On my custom meal plans, there are no restrictions whatsoever. You can have all the foods you want, no restrictions. Yet, don't have them in the house. So right now, if I feel like having pizza, and I feel like walk into my car, sit in the car, drive to the grocery store, buy the food, buy the pizza there, bring it back, bake it. I feel like doing all that, okay, by all means, go for it. But you will notice that if you do that, you're probably going to eat pizza 10 times less than you normally would if you have it in the house, right? So that's basically it, because we can use these laws of human nature, the way we're wired, we can use it to trick, quote unquote, game the system or the outcome in both ways, right? We can make it easy to do the right thing and we can make it hard to do the wrong thing. Right? So we can make it easy to eat great food and make it really hard to eat shitty food, and the outcome is going to be favorable almost always, if not every single time. Right?
Yeah.
So basically just simplify, stick to the system, figure out what your system is right now, and make the system changes, not individual action changes. So if you say, I'm in an environment that makes me by default keep gaining weight, no, I'm going to willpower my way through that. Good luck. Like, it's never going to work, right? Because you have 6% chance of working. On the other hand, if you set up a system so that it by default makes you, get lean and healthy and strong and ripped, then you have 94% chance of making it. What do you think?
94. Yeah.
94. Like, what are the odds, right? I'll take the 94 over 6% any day. So,
oh yeah.
So that's pretty much the main message is think about the system that you have, because system is going to give you the outcome that you want or steer you indirectly opposite way based on the system. So really, for me, when I customize the system for client, that means the way they get food. So food getting, meal prep, when we eat, how much we eat, what we eat, and type of exercise and how frequently we exercise, all that is a part of the system, right? And once you build the system over, let's say, 2 to 3 months, we put habits in place so that these few habits become automatic, so that all of these things happen on autopilot. You don't have to wake up. So I don't have to like I haven't tracked food in more than 10 years. And I stay at 10% body fat all year long. And I have done probably a dozen of photo shoots when I go, take 3 to 4 months and go into a specific diet and go to like 6% body fat and get ripped. I do that without tracking calories or tracking food at all. And again, there's nothing special, like not, oh, God gave me. No, it's just the system that I have and a couple of skills and habits that we have. And this is exactly what I help my clients build. And that's why they can do the same. You don't have to be tracking calories a year from now, 5 years from now. Screw that. Like, there's completely unnecessary to do that. So, a few months, let's say 2 to 3 months, depending if someone is very overweight, it might take 6. If someone is, morbidly obese and has over 50% body fat, maybe it's going to take a year, because it's always a journey. But I always say, for most people, it's really a few months. For most people, we're talking like probably 3 to 4 months for most people. And think of it this way. 3 months from now are going to be like this. You're going to wake up and it's 3 months are gone. Yet for the rest of your life, you can be in great shape, because you get in great shape. It's much easier to maintain than it is to lose weight, which means you're losing. Once you get to the weight that you want and body fat percentage that we want, which is more important, your total weight doesn't matter. Fat percentage does. Put a few key habits in place over these 3 months or 2 or 4, whatever. It's so easy to stay in the system and basically effortlessly keep the weight off forever, which is kind of the point. Yeah.
Awesome. That's wow, that's a lot to take in. But yeah, for the viewers out there, this is key. So you need a system, or you're pretty much screwed if you don't have a system. So if you're interested in, if you're sitting on the fence and you're interested in taking your life to your own hands, and now's your chance, now's your opportunity, reach Amir. I'll have the information below or the link in this group. Join the group. This is something that you have to do. And coming from me, I'm vouching for Amir. This is something that you need to do. Like, if you're worried about the virus, this is your chance, right? So I'm not the expert. Amir's the expert. So there's a reason why I brought him in, is because I've been following his work. I've been watching him. He's got a ton of credibility. He has the results. If you are looking for results that are sustainable and that's going to overall change and increase the happiness of your life, click the link in this group and just get started, man. Just do it. So
I agree. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Very happy to share some thoughts. And if anyone has questions or anything that I can help with, definitely I suggest joining the free group first.
Yes.
You can also check out my website at The Alpha Entrepreneur, all spelled out. So thealphaentrepreneur.com. That's the main website. But the free group is really where all the action happens. So I suggest checking that out first. Yeah. And thanks for having me. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's an honor. And I've learned a lot, and it's great to have this kind of exchange with you, and there'll be more to come. So definitely, I guess that's a wrap. We've hit the 1 hour mark. So
yeah, there you go. Sounds good. Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, hey, thanks so much for having me. I look
my
forward to
pleasure,
doing this
Amir.
again in the future. Yep.
Thank you so much. Till
All
next
right.
time.
You bet. Take care.